You're listening to PhinManiacs Xtra, strictly Finn's talk, hosted by the king of hot takes himself, Ron Caniff.
What is going on, Dolphins fans? Another episode of PhinManiacs Xtra. This is episode 2. Just did one a few days ago, so we're kicking out some content pretty often here, at least attempting to. With me again, I have Lewis Sung from PhinManiacs. What's going on, Lewis?
I'm doing good, Ron, and I'm excited that we're going to be doing this for a while.
Hey, you know what? And I'm putting you on the spot here because I didn't tell you I was going to ask you about this even 5 seconds ago when we went over this stuff. But you got the joy, the excitement, if you will, of actually covering the draft from the media room.
Oh.
I'm putting you on the spot there. So tell me, just give us a brief synopsis about that, what that was like, who you were with, all that kind of fun stuff, if you want to speak to that for a couple minutes before we get into some of this other stuff.
I mean, it wasn't really that much different than if we were watching it at home. It's just a simple matter of, instead, we're going to be, I'm with the media members, so all the paper guys, so you got Armando and Omar and all those guys, they're in there, and we're basically just talking and waiting like everybody else in the world to see who the Dolphins are going to pick, and then as soon as we see the pick, we start writing and writing up all the stats, finding up all the information that we can on this guy, and after that, they come down and they let us interview the player, and after that we just continue writing, and that's how it goes for the rest of the draft picks. They did feed us, though. The food was good, so big credit to Renzo for that. So if you're listening, buddy.
So when you say you got to interview the player, I assume that was through some kind of satellite feed on a television screen in the
with
room there?
Minkah Fitzpatrick. Yeah, with Minkah Fitzpatrick, it was a satellite video conference. But then when it was the rest of the players, it just went into like phone conferences.
Okay.
It was definitely an interesting experience, that's for sure. It was different, but at the same time, it was the same.
Yeah, understood. So the room you were in, is that the big room where, well, first of all, when we all saw Hard Knocks, that we saw all the players would be in the room there when Gase was speaking up at the front, etc. Is that same room? Yeah,
it was the big auditorium type thing. Yeah, it's the film room, so to speak.
So where are at that present time? Where is the war room for the Dolphins? Where's Gase, Ross, Tannenbaum, Greer, all these guys?
From what I can tell, they're just upstairs on the second floor. We never actually get to see them in the war room, so I don't know that for sure. So
they never came out after the first pick or the second and third round pick. You didn't get to ask those guys any questions.
Well, Chris Greer came down every time, and doors lead to different places. There's not only one spot to get there. So,
okay, all right. I just wanted a quick synopsis of that on the radio or on the podcast, I should say.
Yeah, like my man, it was incredible. I love the experience, and I'm really glad I got to experience it. But like, if we're being perfectly honest, it was pretty much more of the same, just with different people. That's all.
All right,
and some interviews.
Awesome. All right, man. So we're going to get started here. If at first you're going to allow me to opine a little bit here. And the last episode we talked about the draft players. We kind of talked about where we felt they fit, how we could use them, good, bad, or indifferent, et cetera, et cetera. I want to backtrack just a bit on the whole drafting a quarterback / not drafting a quarterback situation.
Have at it.
All right. So the question people are asking, was this done purposefully? Did they actually purposely pretend to want to draft a quarterback and then not do it? Or did they just screw up and thought they would at least get one of these guys and everybody jumped in front of them? Well, I'm going to sit there and say that because I stated it a month plus ahead of time, they never intended on drafting a quarterback. They didn't want to draft a quarterback, and they wanted the rest of the NFL to think they did want to draft a quarterback. Now, why do you think that, Ron? The biggest reason is if you want a quarterback and you're sitting there at 11, knowing that Buffalo's at 12 and Arizona, I think, was at 15, and you know those are two quarterback-needy teams, why would you profess to the world your love for quarterbacks and tell everybody how you want to get a quarterback or how you want Baker Mayfield, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and make all those teams so nervous that they feel the need to jump you to go get one? Or if you want a guy like, for instance, Fitzpatrick or Roquan Smith, and I personally thought that Roquan Smith would be there and Fitzpatrick would be gone. It would go the other way, but I'm very happy with the way it turned out. If you wanted a guy like that, wouldn't you just sit there and tell the world, hey, I want a quarterback, hope everybody jumps you, and then you get to draft a top 5 defensive talent? For me, this is exactly what they did. I can't believe that anybody would think that the Dolphins were as stupid to think that they could profess to the world they want a quarterback and then be surprised when they get jumped and they don't get one of the top 4 guys. Now, Greer came down, right, and he said, oh, we tried to make a trade. Well, of course they're going to say that. They don't want to tell the NFL, haha, fooled you, suckers. And good luck verifying that. So if
let me interject real quick. Greer never said that, oh, we tried to make a trade, as far as I remember. They said that the phones were ringing and they thought about it. That's about all they were willing to say.
Exactly. Just enough to make the NFL think, oh, they were interested, they just missed out. They want the NFL to think that, because if you wanted to employ this kind of guile, if you will, obviously you need to maintain that, or you're not going to be able to do that next year. Now, most smart GMs, if I'm Arizona, if I'm Buffalo, I'm going to think, man, I got duped. But they went and got their guy, so it's fine for them. They're not going to complain about doing it, and they probably intended on not chancing it, regardless of what Miami was going to do, and they probably weren't going to risk it, whether Miami said word one or not. If Miami was really trying to do it, they'd have been the ones to jump up to where Buffalo was, or jump up to number 10 and not allow Arizona to offer a better deal if Miami was really trying to. So that's one thing. Now you have the Ross comments about how he was upset about how it went, so he wanted to trade back and blah, blah, blah. Well, it doesn't mean that they really clued him in on this whole plan. I know that sounds strange, but he's not a football guy. He's the owner. I don't know that they would have really clued him in. But I think the biggest takeaway should be, you just don't tell the world how bad you want a quarterback when you know there's teams that are going to jump you to go get one. It wouldn't make sense. Yet they ended up with Fitzpatrick, who they did very little public information digging on, information seeking, pro days, things like that. They stayed away from all that with Fitzpatrick. Now, that's what you do when you're targeting a guy and you don't want people to know. That's what you do. And they also got a little lucky, too, in just the way the draft fell. And I think a tackle went there somewhere. And then another player that was kind of, I wasn't expecting to go went there.
Yeah, Mike McGlinchey and Denzel Ward, number 4 to the Browns. I think that Ward pick was what messed up everything for the rest of the teams.
Yeah, I mean, leave it to Cleveland to to make a move like that. But whatever, maybe it works out for them. But so I really wanted to first kind of say that, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I did say it for a good 5 weeks on Twitter, almost every single day, that I really felt like the way they were going and the moves they were making and the things they were saying didn't indicate to me they intended on drafting a quarterback in the first round. Now, am I even surprised they didn't go for one in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round? Yeah, I actually am. I thought they might take a chance on one somewhere in the middle round, so they really either didn't like the deals they were getting for guys, didn't like the guys, or just plain missed out there. I don't know. They seem to have some serious love for Tannehill, though. And I think that the moves they made with the personnel they brought in, with the quote-unquote culture change, which we'll get to that towards the end of the show, all show to me that they're all in on Tannehill. Good, bad, or indifferent. They're going to ride or die with this guy. They may even be resting their careers on this guy. I don't know. Some of them might be. I mean, what do you think, Lewis?
What I think is that, yes, they are riding and dying with Ryan Tannehill. And honestly, let's be clear on one thing. The only doubts in my mind, even brief doubts, is that whether or not he will be healthy or not. And personally, I'm not even necessarily that worried about that. He did everything he needed to do to come back. I don't see a whole bunch of examples where players do things right and then fail to come back. Like, for instance, nobody's talking about Carson Wentz's knee. Like, he's only been in the league for 2 years and he already tore his ACL. I don't see anybody asking him if he's gonna be able to come back and be the same player. Everybody's looking at Carson Wentz as he's gonna return and be Carson Wentz again.
That's a fantastic point, Lewis. Fantastic point.
And when was it that Tom Brady tore up his knee and he had to get surgery and he came back, and I don't think anybody's asking him if he came back the same. It looks like he came back the same, all right.
That was the first quarter against Kansas City in 2008.
Right. So you have all these examples, but for Ryan Tannehill, he's suddenly he's suddenly made of glass. And there was an argument going on Twitter in my mentions. Like, my mentions have been exploding these past couple of days after some tweets about the Dolphins losing star power, which we can talk about later maybe if we have time. But basically people are under this assumption that all of a sudden Ryan Tannehill is like a fragile quarterback. It's like, he's not fragile. Nobody actually believes he's fragile, Ron. You and I have been around Dolphins Twitter long enough to know like the codes for everything. The people saying that they want to push Ryan Tannehill, right, are the same people who think that Matt Moore is a better quarterback, correct? At least most of the time.
I mean, I've heard people say that Matt Moore. We heard all the talk from the national media when we had Cutler. Oh, somehow they lucked into an upgrade. That was the biggest bunch of crap I ever heard, and that bared out not to be true, obviously. So those same morons are the morons saying these same things. So let's trust what they say.
Right. So this is the point that I'm trying to make here, is that these same people who say that Matt Moore is a better quarterback are the ones saying that we need to push Ryan Tannehill. If Matt Moore is better than Ryan Tannehill, why hasn't Matt Moore pushed Ryan Tannehill?
Yep, that's a good point.
Okay, and here's the second thing. We all know what the code is. We all know what that's code for. Pushing Ryan Tannehill is code for, I don't like Ryan Tannehill. Please, someone come in and beat him so we don't have to watch him play anymore.
Very true.
So that's the biggest point for me. That is the reason why I was always so upset with all the people clamoring for a quarterback. I don't mind I don't mind people wanting a quarterback. I think we do need a quarterback to some extent. But I am not upset that the Dolphins did not draft one this year because, and this is the main point here, I did not see teams tripping over themselves to go get those second-tier quarterbacks. After Lamar Jackson, we expected guys like Mason Rudolph and Kyle Lauletta. They were supposed to go in the second round. That's how everybody projected them, right? Because they were supposedly the second tier, but not as good, but still pretty good quarterbacks, right?
Yes.
When did Mason Rudolph go?
I don't even know.
The third round to the Steelers. It took the third round for the next quarterback to come off the board after Lamar Jackson as the last pick of the first round. So... And then it took even longer for guys like Luke Falk, who we thought was something that could have some potential. So guys like Luke Falk and like Lauletta, these guys did not go until like the 5th and 6th rounds. We thought they were 3rd and 4th guys. So if other teams are looking at these quarterbacks and thinking, okay, these guys aren't that special, then why should Miami be tripping over themselves to grab one of these guys? None of the other teams in the NFL think they're really worth going up there to get. If there had been a run on quarterbacks, then maybe they'd be like, okay, maybe you need to grab somebody now because there's not going to be one. But pick after pick after pick after pick went, and I just watched, and I'm thinking to myself, these quarterbacks must really not be that great if teams aren't looking to pick them. Like, they keep just letting them fall lower and lower, and all it makes me think is, for the sake of having a backup, you're better off with Osweiler, Fales, Bryce Petty, who at least have some NFL experience. If you're looking for a project quarterback, you don't want that project quarterback to be your backup in the event that something happens to Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we actually talked about that, and I'd love to go back and I can't grab the audio, but you could. I think about 2 or 3 weeks before the draft when we did PhinManiacs Live. Me and Chad kind of went back and forth. Chad Ronenbaum went back and forth on that a bit about, hey, if we draft a first-round guy, okay, Tannehill goes out midway through the season, say, yeah, I feel all right. Let's throw this guy in. We drafted him first round, but do we? I remember this was before we had signed Osweiler or Petty. Remember, I said we're gonna have to find some kind of vet. Now, I didn't think it'd be Osweiler. I think at the time, even Chad Henne was still floating out there. Not that was a great choice. Because we can't have a 3rd, 4th round guy step in and be the starter. We might as well have Matt Moore back or Jay Cutler. So I think that we were still looking at that at the time, but we had already signed Osweiler when we went into the draft.
And mind you, when the Dolphins signed Osweiler, I was not happy about it. I was looking at it like, really? Brock Osweiler? That's who you went and got? Oh, joy. Another Gase guy who is not very good, and they're going to try and recreate that quote-unquote magic. But as time went on, I started to think, okay, you know what? It could be worse, I guess. Like, people were going as far as to say the Dolphins have the worst backup situation in all of football. And I'm like, okay, I know we're not happy with the backups, but the worst in all of football? I wouldn't go that far.
I haven't looked at all 31 other teams and their backup quarterback situation to know. I would imagine there's teams, Philadelphia Eagles, that are in much better situations for backup quarterback wise.
A better backup
than we are. On the other hand, I will give this to the people who, if it's the people who wanted to just push Tannehill out, sorry, I can't help you. I'm not there with you. I'm just not there yet. I'm not even close to there. But the people who are genuinely concerned about the backup quarterback situation, because just because Tannehill, maybe we don't consider him injury prone. I mean, it's the NFL. People get hurt. I don't feel as good as you about Osweiler, Petty, and Fales. That's the honest truth. I have this feeling that if Tannehill especially considering I think we're going to start slow anyway. Let's say we start slow and then Tannehill goes out game 5, 6, 7. Man, I think I'm ready in my mind to probably write this season off unless they figure out some other way around quarterback situation, or somehow Osweiler just pulls something out of his butt. But have we ever seen Osweiler play better than 2 or 3 games? I don't know that we have. I haven't watched a whole lot of Osweiler. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know much about Osweiler either. All I know for sure is that he apparently played well enough that the Houston Texans were willing to pay him a massive contract in the offseason a few years back.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing.
And that was with Gase.
So let's go through this Osweiler season. I believe it was it 2016? Was it last year he started with Houston, or the season before he started with Houston? Season before, right? So it's 2015.
Right. That was the year that Peyton Manning got benched for him.
Peyton Manning wasn't doing well. I think he might have gotten hurt then benched, perhaps, or just benched. That was the year he won the Super Bowl, mind you.
That was the year the Broncos won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was the year the Broncos defense
won in spite of Peyton.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So then Osweiler comes in. He plays somewhat decent at first, and then really just sucks it up, sucks the big one. They go ahead and they bench Osweiler for Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, guides them the rest of the way to the Super Bowl with that great defense. Next season, Osweiler's all salty and butthurt. Doesn't sign with Denver, who, again, we saw a limping old man of Peyton Manning bring to the Super Bowl and win it. He has a chance now to bring this great defense to the Super Bowl. He decides to be all in his feels, as they say, and go to Houston. Houston is sold on a bad bill of goods. Elway dodges a freaking bullet, because if he had started Osweiler, their season would have been even worse than it was to begin with. So there you go. Yeah, Elway dodges another bullet.
Trevor Siemian wasn't much of an upgrade, if at all.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, he dodged one bullet only to get hit by another one.
Only to get hit by another one, exactly. Houston quickly realizes that this guy's really bad. And now then he doesn't he end up back in Denver, and now he's here. I mean, that's the story of Osweiler.
They traded him to Cleveland, and then Cleveland dumped him off so that they didn't have to deal with him.
It was like the first time in NFL history that we could think about where somebody traded just to take on a contract. It was like an NBA style trade, because Cleveland has so much damn money and had to get above a certain floor that they're like, sure, we'll take his money. give us a pick, and we'll take him and the pick just so we can dump his contract, and then we can eat it and be above this floor, and then we just cast him off somewhere.
Yeah, it's crazy, Ron. And like I said, I'm not necessarily thrilled with the backup quarterback job. Let me be very clear on that. I'm not looking at the backup spot and thinking, oh, well, we're not that bad off. I'm just saying it could be worse. It could be worse. Brock Osweiler, at the very least, has starting experience. And just because Tannehill gets hurt, like, let me put it this way. He could get hurt. That's true. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a season-ending injury. You're never 100% in the NFL. He's already taken bruises upon bruises. He's already taken hits upon hits. There are plenty of ways he could get hurt. It doesn't have to be season-ending. If Osweiler has to play for 1 game or 2 games or even 3 games, I'm not going to write the season off. It's only if he tears up his knee again, which I don't think is going to happen. That would have to be a very, very, very bit of bad luck for that to happen.
It's true, because like you talked about with Brady, he went out first game, first quarter, 2008 season, tears his ACL, comes back, never looks back. He hasn't missed a game since, albeit minus the 4-game suspension. Hasn't missed it.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count because that wasn't injury related. Hasn't missed a game since. So I think that people just assuming that, oh no, his knee is so fragile. I think those people were people who weren't sold on Tannehill to begin with. But then you have Bryce Petty. I know nothing about Petty. I just know that
other than he got squashed.
Yeah, the Jets have had a quarterback, drafted a quarterback every year for like 3 years straight now, and they've all been bad. Let's see what happens with Sam Darnold. But, Petty's bad. Slackenberg's been bad. I mean, they haven't been able to hit on quarterback for a super really long time. And and it just seems like we just got a castaway from the Jets. I don't feel great about that. So I'm going to say I'm in the corner with these people who are genuinely concerned about the backup quarterback situation. I'm with you. I feel it. But not as, because we need to press Tannehill or we need to replace Tannehill. But if it comes down to that guy and that's our season, that might actually be our season. I guess we're going to find out where we're going there.
Can I add something to the whole pushing him thing?
Certainly.
Let's consider this for a second. So many times we have this discussion about Ryan Tannehill's security blanket, correct?
Yes.
For the first 2 seasons or so, it was Brian Hartline. He was the guy that Ryan Tannehill looked to. And then there was for a little while, it was Charles Clay. He was the security blanket, the one that Tannehill always looked to. And then it became Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry was the guy that he always looked to save the day and get him out of a jam, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was why people like to say that Ryan Tannehill was somebody who would always check down, look for Landry, short passes, and that's part of why Landry turned out to be such a massive part of the offense, is because Tannehill always looked for Landry, or at least that's what people assumed.
Yeah, that's the perception.
So, Ryan Tannehill in 2016 starts throwing the ball deeper more. His actually gets ranked as having one of the best deep balls in football that year.
Yeah, he was ranked out, but statistically he had one of the better yards per attempt, and that went way up. And that was just a change with Gase in the offense and using stills, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct. With that in mind, that means that the so-called security blanket was being let go of. Correct?
Yeah, although Landry was still getting his share for sure.
Yeah, he was still getting his share of catches, but he wasn't. The ball was starting to get spread around a little bit more, which was the whole point to begin with. So now, 2018, Jarvis Landry isn't just not going to be the security blanket. Jarvis Landry isn't even here. He's gone. He's in Cleveland. He's going to have some fun with Tyrod Taylor and eventually Baker Mayfield. So it's going to be a situation where with Ryan Tannehill, he's already going to be pushed plenty, because now there is no more temptation to go look for Landry every other 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. There is no more temptation to see where is Landry on the football field. There is no more temptation to find a security blanket. If they do find one, if he does find one, and he starts doing that again, starts honing in on a single player over and over and over again, even if there are other options available, then we start having a cause for concern with Ryan Tannehill. Because that would mean that he gets too hooked on one player, one guy that he just trusts more than everybody else. That would be a problem. However, this is the pushing that we're looking for. Pushing does not just mean another quarterback to make Tannehill look over his shoulder. That doesn't have to be how pushing works. Pushing can come from the coaching staff. Make him do things he's uncomfortable with. Make him do things he's never done before. Make him improve on his weak spots. Force it out of him. Make him do it. And eventually, every time we have challenged Tannehill to do something, he has gotten better. He has gotten better at pocket presence. He's gotten better at footwork. He's gotten better at reading defenses. He's gotten better at that dreaded deep ball that everybody loves to talk about, and they still try to say he's bad at it.
If anybody eliminated any kind of question about something as quick as they possibly could, man, in 2016, Gase totally put that to bed with the whole deep ball thing. That guy threw some of the most impressive deep ball passes again and again and again, and was statistically one of the best deep ball throwers in 2016. And you can work those numbers 100 different ways if you want. He just simply was, period, in the story. Put that to rest. Whatever Gase did to figure that out, I have no clue. But man, he looked like the quarterback whisperer at least with that particular thing.
He pushed Tannehill. You don't need another quarterback. You don't need somebody there to say, "I'm coming for your job," to push somebody. That doesn't have to be how it works. That's just how that's how everybody wants to look at it, because that means that if Tannehill turns out to not be quote unquote good enough, there's somebody who might be even better to come in and say, "Get out of my way. You're stopping my progress." That's what everybody's looking at as pushing. But pushing doesn't have to come from another player. Pushing can and already has come from the coaching staff. Adam Gase is pushing Ryan Tannehill beyond his limits. He's already showing that can happen. And there's no reason to believe it can't still happen. If you're worried about his health, fine. That's the one thing that I will give you. But if you're worried about his ability still, even after all this time, then I can't help you. You're just going to have to wait and see.
All right, man. So let's move on to another kind of interesting subject. So I'm going to start with this. So you know I'm like, I wouldn't say the king of hot takes, but I'm known for some hot takes, right, Lewis, on Twitter?
Well, according to the intro, you are.
According to the intro, at least the one I used on the first episode. I guess I'll use it on this episode. I'll edit it with an end there just since we're having this conversation. So I'm known for some hot takes. I've had some pretty good hot takes. Not that stating 4 or 5, 6 weeks ahead of the draft that absolutely are the Dolphins not drafting a quarterback in the first round. I'll bet my house on it. They're not doing it. It's not happening. Okay, that could have been considered a hot take. It ended up being right. You remember 2 years ago when everybody thought Ajayi, including Ajayi himself, was going to be the starter, and I kept saying, heck no way, it's not happening. I'm telling you, I don't care what the Dolphins are saying publicly. Every move they made is indicating they are not comfortable with Ajayi as the starter. This was leading into 2016. You recall that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was right on that because, again, actions speak louder than words. But then we can also go back to some really bad hot takes I've had, like I thought when Gase first got here, he was getting rid of Kenny Stills. Ha! That was a really bad one. People still don't like that one, though. So when this preseason, when this season, quote unquote, kind of opened up between the Super Bowl and free agency, man, this is what I thought the Dolphins would do. And this would have been typical Dolphins, but did I miss out. I thought they were going to go through their roster and dump all salary that made sense to dump. Meaning we're going to get rid of every player we can that opens up space and go on free agency hunt again. This is what I thought their strategy would be. So I put out some real stupid tweets, backing that up.
Brother, we all do.
I mean, I had Wake probably gone. I had Juwan James gone. I might have even had Bobby McCain gone. Who knows? I don't know. But I had some really bad crap. And they didn't do any of that. Instead, they went, and then I said, "There's no way, man, they're not getting rid of Sue. You don't eat $22 million. There's no way. It doesn't make sense. No way, it doesn't make." And what do? They got rid of Sue. And then I said they're going to dump the salary. They're going to get Landry back, and blah blah blah. And none of that happened. Well, why? Because I had no clue what their vision was. I didn't know what they were going after. I had no idea what they were intending to mold this team into this season. But we quickly found out, and we saw a glimpse of it last year when they moved on from Ajayi. They were going after culture change. They wanted players who were 100% about the system and the team, and they didn't care how much money you made. They didn't care how good you were. They didn't care what your stats were. They didn't give a rip. It didn't matter what kind of money they had to eat to get rid of you. They didn't care if they had to cut you, trade you, send you off. It didn't matter to them. If you weren't about the Dolphin way, I know that sounds silly. I know there is no such thing as quote-unquote the Dolphin way right now.
Or is there?
Or will there be? Or will there be, I should say. If you weren't about the quote-unquote the Dolphin way, the Gase way, the team, whatever you want to say, if you weren't about that, you were history. Period, end of story. I didn't know they were going to go after that. And I've said many times since then, boy, I don't know if this culture thing is going to work for Miami, this whole quote-unquote culture change. But boy, I'll give them credit. No team that I've ever seen in my life have made the moves they made in the name of culture. Oh, coaches talk a big game. They'll come in and say, "Oh, locker room, culture, team," and then they'll cut number 51 on the squad because he's late to a meeting. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen Dolphins coaches do that. We've seen Philbin do that.
Don Shula.
So yeah,
Ron, I wrote a whole column about this, about what Don Shula and Jimmy Johnson did. I interviewed players who played with those guys. Nat Moore, I talked to Nat Moore, and he basically gave at least 2 examples. Like everybody would tell me that they get along now, Don Shula and Jim Jensen. Jim Jensen, I think it was Jim Jensen that he was telling me about, because I can't, or was it? No, it was Jake Scott. Jake Scott, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Don Shula and Jake Scott hated each other in that room, and eventually it reached a point where Don Shula traded Scott. He was gone. Goodbye. Not going to see you anymore. Nat Moore gave me another example. Duriel Harris. He's gone. Bye. He didn't get along with Don Shula. He didn't buy in. You're out. Both of those players, Jake Scott especially, are incredibly big names in Dolphins history.
Jake Scott, the other number 13.
Right. And Shula said, "You're not getting in this. Get out. You're gone. You're not buying into this." So that's what coaches have to do. How many times has Bill Belichick done the same thing in New England? Hey, Bill Belichick, if you do something wrong, if you do something he doesn't like, you're either going to get benched or you're going to get cut. He cut.
Malcolm Butler, Super Bowl.
Malcolm Butler.
Whatever happened.
Yeah, he was benched in the Super Bowl. What about Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, that 1 year he spent in New England? He didn't even get to play that much because he couldn't grasp what the Patriots were doing. He couldn't figure it out. It was too much for him. So but Chad Ochocinco, Chad Johnson, was one of the best wide receivers in football at the time. And what did they do with him? Nothing, because he didn't get the Patriot way.
Yeah, it's true. So
he was probably the most talented wide receiver on that roster at the time, and they didn't even use him.
Yeah. So I just want to state that I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if going after the quote-unquote culture thing and everybody doing everything 100% the Dolphin/Gase way, is, even though maybe some of the talent on its face might be a little less compared to what we had. I don't know if it'll work, but man, I'll give Miami credit for going 100 towards that goal. 100. I mean, I can't think of an example where, well, maybe they should get rid of this guy if they were really doing it. I mean, they got rid of Sue and Landry. I mean, what more do you want? And I don't know that Landry was all culture as much as paycheck, but I think, in my opinion, it was probably a combination of.
I would agree with that too, because Jarvis, we remember Jarvis Landry yelling on the sidelines, being frustrated with Gase.
15-yard penalties. Yeah.
He wasn't getting the ball. They remember that one blow up where it happened that Jakeem Grant got a screen pass instead of him, and it didn't go well.
Yep.
So he was all ticked off.
And Pouncey, I don't think that was culture. I think that was just them kind of moving on from him. Let him go be. Let him go be on another team. Maybe he can produce. Maybe he can play some games. We know. We were just, I think, kind of ready to move on because that situation with his health in general was just tough to manage for us, and we were trying to rely on him so much, but we had to baby him, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not really sure, but man, did they go after culture, and they were hammered for it. Especially last year, we're hearing about the Dolphins. They handed Philadelphia the Super Bowl for a 4th-round pick. I've heard idiots say that, but then all of a sudden, a couple days ago, what happens? We hear a little story about Jay Ajayi, and Lewis, I'm going to let you speak to it.
Yeah. Okay, so this came out yesterday. It came out, what day is it? It's Tuesday, right? There's the time of this recording. So this came out on Monday, and apparently Jay Ajayi was getting sued for basically trashing somebody. This came out on TMZ, for trashing a mansion and causing about $25,000 in damages. He was told explicitly not to hold parties in that room, in that mansion. He did 3 of them.
Yeah, I think they fined him $5,000 or something for every single party.
And supposedly they didn't. And supposedly he didn't even pay for it. He didn't pay for the damages caused by his parties, which he wasn't supposed to have to begin with. And reportedly, when the owner of the mansion confronted Ajayi about it, he was shoved and threatened by him. Okay. And so many, it's because here's the craziest thing of all. this is what happens when you win a Super Bowl, apparently. Apparently, when you win a Super Bowl, you are absolved of all wrongdoings for the next year. Like, I have so many people telling me, put some respect on his name, he's a Super Bowl champion. I'm like, he's being sued for trashing someone else's property. You cannot justify that. If you want to sit here and tell me that because Jay Ajayi is a Super Bowl champion, he can suddenly do whatever he wants, then I really have to look at you and think, okay, exactly what is your moral standard, good sir / madam? Because if you think that it's okay to just vandalize another person's property because he's a Super Bowl champion and he danced with his owner during the NFC Championship game, then I have to question you as a person, because that's not okay. Wrong is wrong no matter who you are.
Yeah, and I just want to say that we obviously see and we know there was an issue with Ajayi in the locker room. He seemed unhappy many times, unhappy with the way he's used, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this doesn't necessarily lend itself to that, but we obviously can tell there's some immaturity issues there. There's been immaturity issues since 2016, 2015, and that's part of why when Gase first got here in 2016, he wasn't sold on him as the starter, even though he kept saying he was, and he did about 4 or 5 different things trying to replace him throughout the year, or I should say throughout that offseason, and then ultimately didn't start him, started Arian Foster to begin with. I think this is going to start to bear that out a little bit, and I have this feeling as the season wears down and goes on in Philly, especially if his playing time isn't, because they got a lot of backs in Philly, man, a lot of backs. I think you're going to start to see some outward immaturity and some issues from Ajayi, and he'll probably be jettisoned from Philadelphia before long. That's just my opinion. In the case of Landry, I think if they don't win, if they go 2-14, 3-13, if they go Cleveland on him, he's going to get frustrated quickly. And if you thought he was a handful on a 6-10 or 10-6 Dolphins team, wait till he's on a 2-3-4 win Cleveland team with a rookie Baker Mayfield throwing picks all over the place and not getting them the ball. That should be interesting.
That's assuming Baker Mayfield does that. We don't know for sure.
Sue, on the other hand, if LA takes Sue and uses Sue exactly how he wants to be used, exactly to the T, which they might be able to do that with the talent they have there, I don't think there'll be any issue. I think he'll shut up and play football. He's never going to be like a quote unquote team guy, but he'll shut up and play football, and he'll play good football.
Ron, Sue was never a team character problem. He is literally the definition of an assassin. He's somebody you rent for hire, and he does his job. He's not going to cause problems. He doesn't care. He's going to go in, do what he does, and leave.
But he's going to do what he does. So if you ask him to do things he does, he's going to go do what he does anyway. And that's part of why he's not there anymore. And and you're paying him quarterback money to be a defensive tackle. Those two things.
Well, that we can assume that, but like we've never heard stories about Sue being a locker room problem.
No, we've never heard stories about being a locker room problem, but there's a reason we just paid $22 million not to have him on the team. And you know what I mean? There's a reason for that. And it wasn't because he was 100% on board with everything that was going on. It just wasn't. So I think, though, you won't see any issues in LA. It'll be fine. I don't think that'll bear itself out. That Sue was a problem, but I will be willing to bet Ajayi definitely, and I think Landry likely. You'll start to see why Miami decided, parts of why Miami decided to move on from some of these players in the interest of culture. The question is, have they built the right team now? Because it seems like they've got a lot of young guys on this team, a lot of youth on this team right now. And then interjected within each little pod of players or unit, they've got that vet guy or two in the running back room, in the wide receiver room. In the linebacker room, I think they trust Kiko with that. As far as the DBs go, you've got Rashad Jones. You really don't have that vet guy amongst the cornerbacks themselves. You definitely got it on the D-line. I mean, you don't even need to question that. I mean, you got Wake, man. The ultimate professional. That's not an issue. You've got it in the running back room with Gore, right? I think I said running back room already. Yeah. So you've
Danny Amendola.
Yeah, Amendola with the wide receiver. So the tight end room, I know they've signed a vet or two because they got 2 rookies in there. So,
well, I wouldn't call Gavin Escobar a veteran leader or anything.
well, I know, but they've at least attempted to, and some better than others, some more obvious than others, to interject enough vets and savvy guys like that to help along the youngsters. I don't think it's a perfect mixture right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure if it's even a perfect mixture of talent. I guess we're going to see. But they're really attempting this quote-unquote everybody doing everything 100% the way you're supposed to do it, executing 100% the way it's supposed to be executed. And they truly believe that above just individual talents is going to win more football games for them. And guess what? They're going to get a chance to prove that to us on the field. So I'm not going to say yes or no that this is going to work. But they're going to get a chance to prove it to me and to you and to everybody. The Patriots seem to prove it, but they have Brady. So Brady overcomes a lot of missing talent on that team.
Ron, I understand what you're saying with that, but at the same time, I also just throw in the argument Matt Castle did it. Jimmy Garoppolo did it. Jacoby Brissett, to some extent, did it. I don't think there's a quarterback you can plug in New England and he won't be able to execute that system, because as long as the wide receivers are where they're supposed to be, all you have to do is just be accurate and you're fine.
Well, then that lends it to, if you're doing everything the way you're supposed to be doing it, if you quote unquote do your job, you're going to win football games regardless of who the quarterback is in this case. But if everybody does their job, you're going to win games.
That's what Adam Gase wants. The New England Patriots don't win on individual talent. I wouldn't call Julian Edelman some kind of physical marvel. I wouldn't call Danny Amendola some kind of physical marvel. The only one that really qualifies for that label is Gronk. And Gronk spends most of his time hurt these days.
Yeah, that's true. He's hurt a lot, but man, he's talented.
He's talented, but he's hurt a lot. Gronk is like the only one who's on that team that's like, okay, that is a superstar player. Everybody else is a role player who plays their role really well, the way they're supposed to, according to Bill Belichick's playbook. Adam Gase, for every year that Gase has been here, we've had to hear about how he's had to dumb down the offense for people who are not paying attention. He's had to dumb down things so that players can do things the way that they at least know how somewhat to do. So what do we get? A bunch of bubble screens, which don't work because they can't block, a bunch of slants and cross patterns that are short and they have to get the ball out really quickly, missed assignments. It's all these things. If this is true, listen, Gase has been the first to admit that when he makes a mistake. He will say that's on me, I messed up. He's done that before. So I don't see why it's hard to believe when he calls out his players that all of a sudden it's not his players' fault. Why would he go from blaming himself to blaming his players when it's not justified? So that's something you have to keep in mind. Gase wants to run the offense that he's wanted to run since day one. In order to do that, you have to do what did Micah Fitzpatrick say? There's no extraordinary without extra. Put in that work. Take your playbook home and study it. It is your life. It is your livelihood. It is everything that you are for the next several months until the season is over. Then you can have a vacation. That is how the New England Patriots have won year after year after year after year. Brady is a big part of it. I'm not going to try to take that away from him. But the fact that other quarterbacks can come in here and do pretty much the exact same thing tells me that offense is built on players who study that playbook to the letter, and they do not stop ever. They live the New England Patriots. They live football. Every time they're at home, they're not sitting there and playing video games in FIFA. They're looking at their playbook and watching film. That's the kind of players that make the Patriots run. That's why they're so willing to remove players if they start getting a little too expensive, because they know all they have to do is find somebody else who's going to come in and study the playbook and do what he's told. That's how they win. That's how they win. They don't win because they're supremely talented. They win because they study. They beat you with their minds, not with their feet.
All right, man. Well, then that's going to lead into the next question. Are the Finns the worst team in football? But guess what? You can't answer that question. You know why, Lewis?
Why?
Because we're going to talk about that in the next episode. That's my tease. Sorry, guys. But we got to ask the question because we're certainly seeing it everywhere. Jeez, if I could talk, it would be so much more dramatic and so much better of a tease if I could freaking get the words out. Are the Finns the worst team in football? See, it's so ridiculous I can't even say the words. That's what it is. It sounds so stupid. My mouth and brain can't even connect together to finish that sentence because it's so stupid. But
you want me to do it? I'll do it. I've dealt with it so many times I can say it.
I think they got the picture. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it the next episode. But before we go, we're going to say, Lewis, what's your Twitter handle?
All right, my Twitter handle is
Yeah, there you go.
All right, my Twitter handle is @LewisDSung, LUIS, the letter D, Sung, SUNG, @LewisDSung. And after that, you can tell everybody your Twitter handle, my good friend.
Mine is @Fins Broadcaster. That's FINS Broadcaster. Now, I did a last. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it finally matches again.
Yeah, there you go. And because I'm broadcasting about the Fins, this is true. I did a poor job, I should say, last time of telling everybody where to listen to us. But here's my thought on that: if you're listening to us, haven't you then figured out how to listen to us? So doesn't it seem kind of redundant to tell you, hey, here's how you can listen to us? Well, thanks for letting me know, but since I'm listening to you, I already know how I can listen to you.
Right, exactly.
But I'll do it anyway. If say, like, maybe you're just listening to this on the SoundCloud stream through Twitter and you want to download, go to iTunes for the Apple folk. You can go to Stitcher for the Android folk, and then there's lots of others, Android type ways to listen. I think they're all in there.
You can always go to YouTube.
You go look for PhinManiacs, because PhinManiacs Xtra and PhinManiacs are all on the same feed. So you're going to see episode 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, of PhinManiacs Extra, but mixed in with that feed as we do, or Lewis does, PhinManiacs live episodes. You're going to see those in the same stream. So they'll both be within the same feed. You only need to subscribe to the one. So if you're already subscribed to PhinManiacs, then you have PhinManiacs Extra. And there you go. All right, we'll see everybody next time. Appreciate you listening. Thanks for coming on, Lewis. I appreciate it, man.
And I appreciate you inviting me, brother.
All right, everybody, have a great time.
See ya.